All right, question. How do you do tshuva? Is there different tshuvas for different averos? Why don't we do self-affliction? How to do tshuva? For that we have a sefer called Tshuva from the Alter Rebbe. And the way to do tshuva is, the Alter Rebbe says, tshuva is a decision where somebody makes, I'm not going to do any more averos. Tshuva, the Alter Rebbe says, the main component of tshuva is the decision that I'm never doing any more averos. From now on, I'm only doing mitzvahs. And that element of tshuva applies to all mitzvahs and all averos the same, and makes no difference. However, there are other components of tshuva that Alter Rebbe discusses as well, about charata alahava, regretting the past, and also there is an element of fasting, of self-affliction, which Alter Rebbe negates very much. And there are cases where we say that this type of tshuva, which is called tshuva tato, the lower level of tshuva is not enough, and you have to do a higher level of tshuva ilah, which is not just a decision to be better, but it means that you're basically including yourself within Hashem, as he continues later on, and you get a tshuva on a higher level. The union of self-affliction is not an integral part of tshuva. It helps you. What? Self-affliction is like fasting, or people take upon themselves what's called gigulim shel, for example. They roll in the snow, or they other self-suffering. In the past, Yidden would go in golus, or they would travel. They wouldn't travel. They would walk. Though they wouldn't stay in the same place. So those are things which are components which help you feel bad for the past, but it's not an integral part of tshuva. Alter Rebbe in the Tshuva kind of a little bit back and forth over there. First he says it's not negeh, then it is negeh. Different parts. You have to learn tshuva thoroughly. But that's in short the answer. Tshuva, the decision to the tshuva is a decision from now on. I'm only doing what Hashem said to do. I'm not doing anything else. And for that applies to all averos equal. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's a decision that you made. I said the story of the Beis Yisrael that Rebbe doesn't laugh. I said that story like 5 times in the past week. Remember that story? No, so you want to say it? The story, there was a bochur, bochur, that he was at the Kaisel, and the Beis Yisrael, the Rebbe, the Gerer Rebbe, tapped him on the shoulder, and the Gerer Rebbe asked him, what's the biggest praise you can say about the Eibishter? So the Rebbe asks you a question, you're quiet, you don't have to try to answer. The Beis Yisrael said the biggest praise is that the Eibishter doesn't laugh. And the Beis Yisrael walked away. That's how the Gerer Rebbe was very abrupt and just walks away. So what is that supposed to mean? So he went to the Gerer Rebbe's brother, who was the Pnei Menachem, who was the Rosh Yeshiva at the time. And he asked him, what did your brother, the Rebbe, what is that supposed to mean? So he answered him that sometimes you have a bochur that doesn't do well in yeshiva. And Anhala speaks to him and it doesn't work out, so he told the bochur, this is not for you, and Zamer Gesund. The bochur goes home, he's home for a little bit, and he sees it's not good to be home, so he makes a decision that he has to go back to yeshiva. He calls up Anhala and says, I promise you, Rabbi, this time I'm going to behave. Comes back to yeshiva, and the first day he's in yeshiva, he's already sleeping in again and not behaving. So after 2 days, Anhala calls him over and says, it's not for you, go home. So he goes home, he's home for another few days, and again he decides, I have to go back to yeshiva. He goes up on Halla again. This time you're going to see. After 3, 4, 5 times, when he calls up on Halla starts laughing. Come on, you know what, you promised so many times, you're wasting, you know it's not for you. Get yourself a job or something, why in a different yeshiva? So the Beis Yisrael said, this, the Pnei Menachem interpreted, Eibush doesn't laugh. No matter how many times you tell the Eibishter, Hashiveinu, Hashem Elecha v'Nashuva, we're going to be good, Hashem, this time I'll take it for real. This time I'm accepting it. So every time we try, we mean it sincerely. Rabbi Cook also said something similar. Every time you do, at this point, you really feel that way, even though you felt that way yesterday and it didn't last. Now you honestly feel that way. Hashem accepts it as true tshuva, and it's considered whatever tshuva is supposed to do. With? Zelavat told us actually the only aveda that it says that tshuva tatar doesn't work. You have to have tshuva ilah. On the other hand, it says in Perek Zayin of Tanya that for that it's enough to have krishma shalamita, the kavona atzuma, which the tradition from Chassidim means to say krishma shalamita and think pirush hamilis. That atones for that, and also the decision to never do it again. If it happens again or not, that's every time. It's its own story. Question: is it okay for a bochur to be another bochur's mashpia? For example, a bochur in Shir Gimel for a bochur in Shir Aleph. There are no clear rules offering the services. There are no clear rules when it comes to who should be the Mashpia. The only rule that we know is that Rebbe said that the Mashpia should be similar to a Malach, which means He has the name of a malach, right? No, but that's that Rebbe says it means that similar to a malach. That it means that he should have Avas Yisrael. That's the only rule Kiviyachol the Rebbe instituted. Everything else is up to hearsay what people understand. But Derech Klal, most people that are in the industry, so to speak, they feel that a bochur is usually doesn't have the kind of life experience that a married person has. Sometimes, yeah, but usually not, and therefore it should be a married person. And also people say it should be dafka, not a parent. It should be dafka, somebody that's not a relative, which is lav dafka. Often, there are times where a father could be a good mashpia or an uncle or whatever. Also, it doesn't have to be from, for sure does not have to be from an Olas Yeshiva, whatever. Having an older bochur can technically work, but again, the big chisaron is that bochurim don't have the same life experience, the same knowledge as other people. But if you can't find any married person, any Anhala member, or any older person that you know, that you can trust and feel comfortable talking to him, and you don't feel that he has guidance for you, then b'diavad, in the meantime, you can use an older bochur, but it's not ideal, and I know stories that didn't end up well, but if you're careful and you know that this is only for time being, it could work. Yeah. If it's done, the Rebbe answering Mashpia, I don't know if the Rebbe said that clearly, but there is a story that Rabbi Yamin Klein said that there was a certain bochur that was asking about going to college, and eventually he went to college. And the Rebbe tried finding out, the Rebbe asked whoever it was, what happened over here. But this bochur asked his Mashpia. I don't know who his Mashpia was, we don't know. I think it might have been an older bochur, but I'm not sure. And that Mashpia basically told this younger bochur that yeah, okay, you're right. I think for you, college makes sense. Rabbi Yamin Klein said from that story, the Rebbe stopped talking about making a mashpia. Before about appointing a mashpia for yourself. Until then, the Rebbe spoke about a bakosha nafshis mashpia. From that story, Rabbi Yamin Klein was there when it happened. He was the Rebbe's secretary. From then, the Rebbe stopped talking about it because the Rebbe realized that it's not what I wanted, and the person made a mistake. So l'chayra that also says that the Rebbe is not talking through the mashpia, and that's not the pshat. Akopanim, so an older bochur also is not automatically going through a mashpia. What? It's hard to give examples. You can have an older person that does not have life experience or good advice. You can have a younger person that does have. My point is, there's no rule set in stone. But derech klal, the older the person is, the more settled in life he is, the more life experience, he'll be a better mashpia. Person is young, he's a bochur, he's usually not as experienced, and is not familiar enough with the Rebbe's and Shittas also. So that could also be a mistake as well. Well, people look at you and they say that's very not good idea to be independent, so I guess not. Oh, that question I don't have to repeat. All right, question. Why did Hashem create the male Livyasan and the female Livyasan? It says Hashem didn't realize that they are too big, but Hashem doesn't make mistakes. So how come he didn't realize? Meaning, in the first place, he just should have made only the female or only the male in the world. So this is a bit of a misquote. The person is quoting that as if the Eibishter, this is from Chumash Bereshis, where it says that Hashem created the male and female of Yasan, and he saw that they're going to be too much, they're going to have too many offspring, and it's going to destroy the world. So Hashem killed the female and salted it, lost it, lavai, and only the male is alone, because otherwise it's going to make problems. So the question is, just create one. So the answer why, but it doesn't say that Hashem made a mistake. That's obviously not that's not a question. But the question is, why didn't Hashem create only one? And the answer for that is, the Rebbe says, because if Hashem would create only one, then there would be a concern that just like Hashem is the only existence, Ba'al Yoinin, and the Levyasan is the only existence in the Tachtoinim. Hashem has no female, has no zug, so too, the complete, the Levyasan also has no zug. And that is why Hashem created everything with Zohar and a Keva. In this way, there should be no doubt that this is not Eibishter. Of course, by Adam and Rishon, Hashem created him as one. But first of all, there's a famous opinion that Adam was created Chatchila as a man and woman together. The front was a man, the back was a woman. And secondly, that is Taka, one of the reasons what Rashi says why Hashem created for Adam also a female. Yes.
Evolution says about us pieces of bug that reproduces itself. They don't have any feelings.
There's a. That's an interesting observation, but not connected to what I just said.
Why is that everything has a male and female? So
Everything has a male and female, so you should see that it's not Eibisher. That depends on something else. There's always two. What? Okay, I'm not sure what that is. I'll call upon him, but this is what the beer was over here, that there is, that it shouldn't think that it's its own entity, it exists on its own. Because it's a yochid, and it exists, according to Chazal, this Leviathan that Hashem created is alive until now. So it's the same thing. And it's one and it lives forever, so it's Kivyachal, it can be a mistake to say that it has godly powers. So therefore, it was created as a male and female like all other creations, and yet it's alive, because Hashem wants it to be alive for long. Yeah, but not like Hashem created us l'chatchila, that it's not the same thing. There's different. I don't know. Maybe it's a good question, but upon him, that's the beer that I saw. For me, that's the good enough answer. Okay, you're right. I have to repeat the questions. Okay. So remember what the question was. If I came for Zal here in 2 years, would I be able to drive? I don't think so. Probably it was I can't say failed attempt, but close enough. So probably it won't happen again in such a ifin. Question. There's two questions about mustaches. One question is, how do you blow your nose with a mustache? You don't. Question, what's your opinion about trimming mustaches? So my opinion is irrelevant, but there's a letter of the Rebbe where the Rebbe famously says to ask Rabbanei Chabad. And amongst Rabbanei Chabad will tell you that if it's necessary, it is permitted, and there are Choshev Elabavich Chassidim that trim their mustaches, and then there are those that do not trim their mustaches. There was a Yid that used to live in Postal many, many years ago. He passed away already. He told me that he once saw the Rebbe come to Fabrengen, and the Rebbe's mustache was trimmed. I didn't hear that from anybody else ever. And my understanding is that Rebbe never trimmed his mustache, but he claims he was a bochur then, and he was able to see, so who knows. But the Kopanim, there are many Chassidim that never trim their mustaches, and there are many Chassidim that trim them all the time. Whenever they get a haircut, I remember when I was a bochur in Yeshiva, one of them would come in, he looked Amish every time. Amish trims it as they very close. But so it's for sure there's a letter that is permitted. Question, why did the Rebbe really mention Gehenim, and what does that mean to us Chassidim? The Rebbe really mentioned Gehenim because the way of Chassidus is that we are supposed to focus on godliness, on purity, and the Rebbe also did not mention Gan Eden, not Gehenim or Gan Eden, because Chassidus is expecting from us to be on such a level to serve Hashem for the ultimate reasons, just for pure godliness, Lishma. And the Gan Eden and Gehenim element is for people that are on a lower level, that need to be encouraged with prizes and punishments, and that's what has to be spoken about. What that means for us is that we should be on such a level that we should be learning Torah mitzvahs the whole day, and we should not care about any prizes or any punishments, just learn, regardless if there's a knas or there's no knas, regardless if there's a mitzvah or no mitzvah, we should be learning the whole time. If, however, there is a bochur that he only learns when there's a mitzvah, and he only comes to Seder when there's a knas, such a bochur should be told that you should know that in addition to the knas down here, there's a bigger knas up there called Gehenim. In addition to the point system and reward you have over here, there's a bigger reward up there called Gan Eden. So it really depends on the message of the Rebbe by not talking about is he's expecting us to be on a very high level. We should not care about anything else. When I was a bochur in Yeshiva, that's when mitzvahs began. When I was a bochur in Shir Aleph Zal, or even Shir Beis, I think it was, that's when the first concept of a mitzvah began. Till that, no yeshivas ever had mitzvahs. Then, and then there was in Eretz Yisrael at the time, they made a nationwide mitzvah, the whole Eretz Yisrael. All the bochur will learn Masechta Kiddushin, and then they're going to go on a trip to Russia. It was a whole thing. And the Krach Chabad magazine had pictures of every single bochur that did it. And then Holo was fuming, was so upset. We're bringing in Misnagdish Shtik over here, prizes for learning. What's the Ramai said does? It's completely wrong. We learn for the Eibish's Torah, and that's it. You have to have your COVID, you have to have your picture, and whatever it is. And Holo was very, very upset. Lepoyel, it took off in Yeshivas. Bochur liked it a lot. First of all, we all like prizes. And second of all, where most of us are on a level that without a prize, we're not going to learn. So B'meila, for those kind of bochur, you have to talk about Gan Eden and Gehenim, and you have to hear all these things. But to know that the Rebbe doesn't talk about it, because we're not expected to hear to be on such a low level. If I guess. Question. I don't see myself as a Chassidic bochur. Like it's not my personality. What can I do? You have to re-look at the concept of a Chassidic bochur. The whole concept of there's a personality fit with a Chassidic bochur is a big mistake. The definition of a Chassidic bochur is not based on any personality. You can have any personality out. There is no personality that fits with a Chassidic bochur. Every single bochur here, there are people with your personality, and they are Chassidic bochur. What does Chassidic mean? That they learn Torah and they do mitzvahs and do whatever their Mishnah wants. There are people that have a teva to be very, very chutzpahdik. And yet they're very Chassidish. There are people that have a teva to be very Kabbalah Solik and they're Chassidic, and they're not Chassidish. There are people that love sports and are very Chassidish. People that have nothing to do with sports are not Chassidish. And every other option out there on your person, there are people that are very loud, energetic people and Chassidish and not Chassidish. People that are very quiet and soft and introverts are very Chassidish. Every personality can be Chassidish. Your personality has nothing to do with Chassidish. What you should do is to realize that your perception of, oh, that guy's Chassidish and I'm not like him, it's a different personality, so I can be Chassidish. That guy used his personality to become Chassidish. It didn't begin that because he has a personality like that he became Chassidish. It's because he decided to become Chassidish. So no matter what your personality is, you can learn Torah, do mitzvahs, and use your personality to serve Hashem. Exactly, and that can apply to anybody. Exactly. Apply to any. The Chassidus has to report the question. Chassidus means to follow the Rebbe's Erois. So anyone, and no matter what your personality is, you can follow the Rebbe's instructions and do what the Rebbe wants of you. Huh? I can't hear you. What are the Rebbe's instructions? To the Orchitas, to the Rambam, to come to Seder, to wear Jamel Gansitis all the time, to wear Negelvasser, to be tznius, to have good midas, to be a nice person, to not be verbittered, and to be besimcha all the time, to be aware of all your mindless that you have. Huh? I will say, what are your problems that you have to hear about? Question, what is cash advance and what is your opinion about it? Cash advance is basically an organization that began, I think, maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe a bit more than that, where people give out loans. Now, usually, when you want to borrow money from somebody, so they're afraid to give out loans unless you're guaranteed. So you want a loan, you go to a bank. And in order for a bank to give you a loan, there are two things. First of all, they want you to pay interest. If you borrow $1,000, you have to pay $1,200, $1,300, or $1,000, whatever, a percentage you have to pay back. In addition, the bank wants to know that you're a person that we can trust that you're going to pay back. So you're borrowing money. Do you have a house? You have a car? You have a job? If I know that you have these things, I can lend you money. Many people want to borrow money and they don't have what's called good credit. They don't have a house. They don't have a proof that they can pay back, but they need a large amount of money. So people came up with this idea, we're going to lend you a large amount of money even if you don't have good credit, or we're going to charge a ridiculous amount of interest. Meaning, you're going to borrow $1,000, you're going to pay back $2,000. You're going to pay back almost 100%, a ridiculous amount of money. So people borrow $100,000 and they have to pay back within a year $200,000. How's that going to happen? So the cash advance people, or basically found people that they have businesses, and the banks are nervous and they're not taking risks, so they're going to give the risks. Now, it's a big problem because if you're dealing with Yidden, it's mamish ribis, and ribis, this is heavy, heavy interest. It's one of the biggest averis, tons and tons of lavim for a person to give interest. So there are the frumas, so to speak, of the cash advance that are careful not to deal with any Yidden. But it's very tough because the way it works is you have to have people that give the money. Everyone has to be either the lending end has to be are all Jewish, but the receiving end has to be goyim, and you can't know for sure, and all the people in between. It's very complicated. That's one big problem. The second big problem is that it's really taking advantage of people. And it gets this industry can get very nasty very quickly. People don't pay, and then it becomes the court cases. So there are many Lubavitch Chassidim that made loads and loads of money off of it, and then there are many people that are very against it. It's a terrible idea. It's mamish taking advantage, and besides the ribis aspect. My opinion is I don't know. There are people that work in cash advance. Some of them give yeshiva money, some don't give yeshiva money. So b'meila, it all works. I just spoke to a younger man a couple of days ago. I wanted again for the podcast, and he asked him, where do you live? He lives in Florida. So probably in cash advance. So he says, no, I'm against cash advance. A different guy, what do you do? I live in Florida and do cash advance. So it's pretty much today very, very normal for most, I shouldn't say most, many young Lubavitchers, they move to Florida and do cash advance.
How do you start off with cash advance? How do they start off with cash?
So you have to have people that have money, and then you're the broker. Most of the cash advance people don't have millions of dollars sitting in their account. But I know a friend that has millions. I'll tell my friend, don't worry, I'll give you even more. Yes, exactly, and that's how it works. Yeah.
Is there an organization where you're not deny someone alone for Yiddishkeit, right? So
What?
you're not deny somebody alone for Yiddishkeit. If they ask you for loan money, there's an organization that will just ask for money. Let's go.
Yeah, you can't deny somebody a loan, but so therefore. Yeah. So you have, so you can give it.
Why would anybody give cash and give that?
No, but you can't give a loan with ribbis either. So.
No, he's saying, why would you go to cash advances?
Oh, you want to find the Frumiyah that gives out loans without taking interest? The only place you'll find that is in the Chumash. Huh? The organizations there's something called Gmachs. A Gmach gives out loans for people without taking interest. A Gmach, first of all, is usually limited to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, or specifically people that are making weddings. And some Gmachs are very tough about making returns as well, and they won't always give you. And we're talking about people that are looking money for businesses. Gmachs are not usually for businesses. There are Gmachs out there for such kind of people, but it's a lot more limited in the scope of how much money you can borrow, and they also have some kind of criteria in order for you to take the loan. There's a question here. Yeah. You're not actually stealing, but you're taking advantage. Is that another advera? I don't know what you're saying.
Because I know someone was a cash advance, and a 1-year loan was 5 times.
He gives a loan for $1 million, and he charges $5 million in return.
Yeah, like that person is actually mentally ill. You got to take advantage of
No,
someone.
these people that are borrowing the money, they're so confident in their business that they're for sure going to make so much money.
You're taking advantage. Any logical person who has that's completely...
That's not true. People in the business world sometimes feel that based on my understanding, I'm going to bring tons of money in and I'll be able to pay that back within. The facts are that the cash advance people are making loads of money because people are borrowing those amounts and paying back those amounts within the right time, and so that's happening. That means it was worth it for everybody. They're happy with what they did. They borrowed $1 million, they paid back $2 million, and they're happy with it.
I'm saying, it's not an issue because the person you're taking advantage of someone. That person obviously, there's no way you can get it back. It's possible.
I'm taking advantage of him, but he's stuck. He can't get a loan anywhere else. I'm doing him a favor.
It's better if you just not have any money. You're making him lose $4 million. It's impossible to pay that back. It's 1 year.
But they do pay it back.
You can't. No, they don't. You can't pay back.
Some of them do pay it back. Many of them do.
You can't do that. It's impossible.
Then how does it happen? Then how does the cash advances? How does that company still exist?
No, this is just a particularly crazy. It's a scam for money. Most times it'll just be like 2 times, but this one's 5. It's impossible to pay back.
See, he borrowed it or he returned it. He lent it.
In cash, that's he gave someone a loan, like I don't know, $100,000. You have to pay me back $500,000.
Okay, and what happened?
I'm assuming the person defaulted.
So then he's the loser that he just lost $100,000.
I don't know.
What do you? Obviously, he did his research and he felt he was going to get the money back, and he probably got the money back, and everyone is happy. Huh? Okay, no, I said what I have to say about it. I don't work in cash advance. I have many Talmidim. Next time we have a podcast, okay, the next guy's schedule is not in cash advance, it's a shliach, but the guy afterwards, no, he's also against cash advance. Okay, Kitzer, but there's going to be, some of the people were for sure in cash advance, and one of them actually, he didn't want to say it, but one of the people that were on, he actually works against cash advance. He basically, if you took our money from cash advance and you didn't pay, he helps you be part from your loan. There's a company like that, but he didn't want to talk about that, so I didn't, whatever. Tell them there's cash advance, he was born cash advance. Okay, question, why don't the shluchim give more attention to the bochrim? Is that not why they're here? The shluchim give a lot of attention to the bochrim, and that's not why they're here. The shluchim are here to come to Seder and sit and learn the whole day in Seder. That is why they're here. And Baruch Hashem, some of them do certain stardom that they actually come and they learn, and it's very nice. Now, why don't, and they give attention to the bochrim a lot, and I think too much attention sometimes. There's a question, I'm not sure, why can't I remove my here? I'm not sure what this question is about, so you have to write it again and explain yourself if you want me to try to answer it. I read the first part, that's enough. Is it a good idea to write to the rebbe and then make a raffle between 2 mashpiyim to choose from? I don't know what that means. I don't know what the question is. You write to the rebbe about what? And about who your mashpia should be, and then you make a raffle. I don't understand the question. Write the question again and make it more clear. Are you supposed to say, next question, are you supposed to say Hashem's name in bochur achum tachnun on page Lamed Daled where it spells on the side without Nakudis? So this is a bochur that only uses the old Sidurim like me. So on this page over here, by bochur achum, you have the Yud, that's Hashem's name. This is really supposed to be an introduction to the pasuk over here. Hashem, not the pasuk, Hashem Elokai Yisrael, no Amar. Yeah, Hashem Elokei Yisrael, Shu B'cher Napecha. So every time you say this, you go back and you say this line again. And if you don't understand me, just take one of the Nusudurim. All the Nusudurim have it spelled out. So you'll see in the Grey Siddur very clearly, after each paragraph, it has this line a second time. So,
Who doesn't know that?
The person that wrote the question.
so that's what you're supposed to do over here.
People don't say it.
Question: do you think your kids would do better if they were chas v'sholem in a different yeshiva? Oh, I don't know if it was chas v'sholem in a different yeshiva. There was a Talmud of the Mizitcher Maggid. His name was the Volper. The Volper was a legend because he's one of the few Chassidim or Tzaddikim that somewhat fried out. Not fried out in the way we fried out. He fried out that he became a drunk. He became a shikar. And there's many stories about him. Not too many, but enough to make him a very intrigued mystery. And the Chassidim said about him that from the Mizitcher Maggid's Talmidim, only him and the Alter Rebbe really got the Mizitcher Maggid's Torah, but then he became a drunk and whatever. It is, like I said, a few stories. He was so great, he was the Chavrus of the Alter Rebbe. Him and the Alter Rebbe would learn after the Mizitcher Maggid would teach Torah. Him and the Alter Rebbe and the Volper, they would go to their room where they stayed and they would do Chazorah. Now, the room that they rented, that they had, was basically a room that was adjacent next to a room of a family, and that family had their ventilation from their chimney going into the room where the Alter Rebbe and the Volper were. So it was basically full of disgusting smoke coming from the chimney, from the firewood, whatever. It was so much smoke and uncomfortable that they had to sit on the floor to be able to see each other and talk normally. And they sat and they learned, and it was uncomfortable. So one time, the Volper told the Alter Rebbe, if I would have been the Eibishter, I would have made it that the Talmidim of the Mizitcher Maggid should have a normal place to sit and they should be able to learn properly. And the Alter Rebbe said that already when he told me that, I said, Krich da Avermu, that there's a worm, like a worm in an apple, the beginning of the rap, I saw that. What did the Alter Rebbe see? So the beard, it says in Torah Shalom, the beard is that the fact that someone thought that it could have been different, that I could have made different than the Eibishter, that is Kfira Apikursus. And Mamela, whenever people ask, what if, it's a very normal question to bochur ask, what if I would have been born to a different family? What if I would have learned in a different yeshiva? What if I would have had a different roommate? What if I would have, whatever circumstances went through your life is what the Eibishter wanted, and that was the best possible thing for you. And thinking, what if it could have been better, is apikursus, and it's against Darkei Chassidus.